All right, let's talk about dialing in a high gain metal guitar tone. A very common combination in metal guitar is having an overdrive pedal like a tube screamer running into a high gain amp like a 5150. It's behind some of my favorite heavy records. And I used an overdrive pedal and an amp for a long time, not really knowing what I was doing and using them incorrectly because nobody wants to ask the question, how do you dial in an overdrive pedal? It's the kind of thing that as a musician, I think I always thought you should just know. So I did it wrong for a long time. So rather than have you suffer the same fate, I'm going to show you what I've learned about how to dial in that high gain metal guitar tone that you might be looking for. So to do that, I'm doing it in the box just so it's easy to demonstrate. I'm in Logic and I'm using the Nolly X amp sim from Neural DSP. The reason I'm using this one is because the third amp here is modeled after a 5150, which is an amp that I love to play. And I'm going to play around with the native overdrive pedal that comes with this amp sim. So let's break it down step by step. Step one, pull the gain way back. So I'm going to dial this gain down to, somewhere between, what is this? Like 8, 9, or 10 o'clock, pretty low. A mistake that I think a lot of guitarists make is they think high gain guitar, therefore the gain knob needs to be at 10. I'll show you what that sounds like. It's actually really hard to tell what's going on. So maybe if you're doing doom metal, you want super fuzzed out guitar, but if you're playing something with like technical articulation, you're not even going to be able to hear it with the gain up there. So we're going to add some gain. We're going to use the pedal to really bring the gain up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the gain low, and I'm going to look for the moment right around when the signal starts to saturate on this guitar track that I'm messing with here. All right, so here I am at, between 9 and 10 o'clock on the gain. I'm going to leave the tone knobs alone. We're going to come back to these later. And now I'm going to add some overdrive in. Another thing that, for step two on the overdrive pedal that I think a lot of people get wrong is they'll think high gain guitar, the drive must be at 10. I like to use the overdrive pedal purely to really push the signal of the preamp, not to actually add distortion. So I'm just going to keep drive at 0. The third thing that I think people get wrong a lot with overdrive is they automatically put the level at 10. That may not be what you need for your amp to get the high gain sound you want. And the risk that you run is if you push it too hard, you lose clarity and articulation. So I'm going to start with level at 0, with drive at 0, tone dialed at 12. I'm usually going to leave it there. I'm going to turn this pedal on and I'm just going to bring the level up until I start hearing something I like, but I'm still hearing clear articulation in the notes. Right there sounds good to me. It's tight, right? The low end is controlled, which is one of the main reasons to use an overdrive pedal because you can get really high gain sound without muddiness and without losing your clarity. We're not quite there yet, but I'm starting to like what I hear. I probably don't like it at 10. Let's just check that out. See, I just like the clarity, especially on those palm mutes if I'm not quite at 10. Cool. We're still not high gain enough. Don't worry, we're going to get there. So now I'm going to hop back over to the amp. This is where I'm going to start to play around with the tone knobs. I'm generally going to roll off the bass first because as I start driving this thing harder and harder, I don't want the low end to get out of control. And if you have a really thick low end, which is probably what you want if you're doing metal, you want chugging, heavy, crushing guitars, it's actually deceptive how little bass you need to do that on the guitar amp, because when you're in the context of a song and you're playing with a band, a lot of that heaviness is actually going to come from the bass guitar. And if you don't leave room for the bass guitar, if you don't roll off some of those low end frequencies, you're going to wind up with mud. So I'm usually going to put the bass right around 11 o'clock. Let's just play with this. Yep, that feels good to me. I'm also going to push the mids. Classic metal, 80s thrash, always scooped. I like more mid information. I like to be a little mid forward. It's easier to hear what's going on with the guitar. And again, I'm really just listening for tone. I'm not listening for gain. I know it doesn't sound heavy yet. We're going to get there. That's about where I like the mids. Let's see if we want any more treble. Okay. I think resonance is probably fine. Let's see what we want, if we want any more brightness out of the presence knob. Just a hair past 12. If you're using a good amp, it should sound great if you have 12 o'clock across the board. So we don't need to go too crazy here. I'm going to push this a little bit harder with some of the mastered gain here. Okay. And now I'm going to come back to this gain knob. So the gain is still very, very low. I'm now going to dial it up a little bit until I start hearing that really heavy engagement happening, especially on those palm mutes. Let's actually just isolate the palm mutes so we can use this to dial this in. There it is. That's the heavy metal sound that we like. Okay, there you go. And you'll see I'm still not even at 10 on my overdrive level. Drive is at 0. And look at the gain on the amp. We're not even at 12 o'clock on the gain. You can get a really heavy sound that's articulate and clear if you use overdrive and high gain amps correctly. So what I used to do is put all this stuff on 10 because I heard that's what Korn did on like a triple rectifier. And that's just way too much for me, at least in the music that I'm playing, to figure out what's going on. So that's how I'd like to dial my overdrive pedal in front of a high gain amp.